85058. If you'd like to talk to us today. Richard Armitage is still here. We're talking about his role as John Porter in Chris Ryan's Strike Back, which starts tomorrow night on Sky One. There are 6 episodes shown in pairs, as you said a moment ago, so they look like films. I keep making this 24 comparison.
Yeah.
24 is always a little bit nebulous and vague about who the bad guys really are. You know, they're kind of Middle Eastern most of the time, but they never have the sort of courage to say where they are, or they just invent a country.
Yeah.
Whereas this is, I suppose, more relevant, more topical in some ways. It's about Iraq. It's about the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah, I mean that's our first episode, our second story, should I say? We go into Zimbabwe and there's a potential assassination of Robert Mugabe. The third story is set in Afghanistan. We've got a British operative who's gone AWOL and he's redirecting US missiles. He's working with the Taliban in cyberspace. So yeah, they're as relevant as they can be without pressing too many buttons. If essentially they are just a fictional backdrop, but we hope to sort of prick the conscience of people watching it, so it feels that they can connect into it and they're recognising something from current affairs.
I mean, the premise is quite boys' own, a lot of it, isn't it? It's quite
boys' own.
Yeah, no, but as in not boys' own. No, they've got no part in Chris Ryan's Strike Back in foiling an attempted assassination of Mugabe. It's a male show, isn't it? It's going to attract a predominantly male audience.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when I embarked on it, I thought that was possibly the case. But I think when you put when you look at the man as opposed to what he does as his job, it becomes a bit more wide-reaching. And I think this is about a man who made a decision that had such a catastrophic effect on his life, and he still believes that was the right decision, even against the odds, against the evidence of what's happened. And I think that begins to become more about a man than a soldier. The soldier is just what he does, and getting him into these situations, it becomes much more of a moral journey for him. How does he survive as a man and a soldier, as a husband and a father and a soldier at the same time? So hopefully it kind of sort of broadens the scope of it.
I mean, given that Chris Ryan wrote this, and I was reading yesterday that Chris Ryan has written 14 novels.
Yeah.
14
bestsellers as well.
And he's written 3 non-fictions as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
The one that was Left Behind, Bravo 20, and it's obviously the third one, isn't it? But this is fictional, but obviously based on a reality that he understands.
Yes, and it's actually the part of the book that I really went for when I was looking at it, because I felt that probably John Porter was going to be somebody that was as close to him as you could find in any fiction.
As close to Chris Ryan.
It must be. I mean, I've got no evidence that was the case.
But you met Chris came down to set, did he? You met him?
I didn't actually meet him. He advised early on during the pre-production.
He didn't come down?
I didn't actually get to meet him. We were way off in South Africa by the time we got into production. But
so I wondered if he's always in silhouette.
in a sort of profile. He'd met all the SAS guys that we were working with. But I felt that Porter in the novel was probably the closest we'd get to the truth in terms of him and his. And if you look at the detail that he writes that character compared to the other characters, clearly that John in the book was a lot of his own experience.
So it's the one that got away, not the one that got left behind. I've just realised the one that got away. I titled his book wrong. But such a remarkably successful author, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the fact that there are 14 of them really did take me by surprise. But this works. It works because, as we say, because of its relevance, because it's fairly topical. So it takes in Iraq, Zimbabwe, Afghanistan and Pakistan over the 6 episodes. But did you film a lot of it in South Africa? Is that right?
Yeah, we filmed all of it in South Africa, and South Africa actually becomes London, it becomes Hereford, it becomes the mountains of Afghanistan. We did go up to Namibia to shoot Afghanistan, which was amazing, and it's interesting because you do question, why are we here, why are we shooting this here? And then when you see the end product and you see the big helicopter shot where the landscape expands in front of you, you really understand, because to me there were some places we shot that to me looked like CGI to the naked eye. And on screen you kind of think, are people going to really believe that this is true, or are they going to think it's computer generated? But there's very little CGI in this.
On that point about a certain type of truth, and I mentioned it's based on a reality that Chris Ryan understands, having been in the SAS. Watching it, and I was looking at the the kidnap scenarios and the safe houses, and I suppose there must be, the show has studied that and is trying to recreate how those sorts of missions would really work when they went to extract a hostage. That's one part of the program. The other part of the program is based at MI6, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where Andrew Lincoln is conducting operations, and I assume that isn't particularly realistic. He stands in front of a great big screen and he's got lots of video feeds, and that's where it really does look a bit 24.
Yeah, it's kind of how we hope MI6 is, but the reality is probably not quite as glamorous as that.
I imagine the reality is it's just lots of people sitting at computers studying data.
Yeah, on headphones like this, whispering into real machines. Yeah,
it's just quite a boring job, I would imagine, in reality. So you've got that. So you in a way with the MI6 stuff, you've fed the public the way that they think these things work. But the stuff on the ground has, I think anyway, as far as I know, what do I know, but has an air of realism about it.
I think the reason for that is because of the lack of CGI, because everything we did, we had to really do, and I did every stunt apart from one thing, which I'm not going to tell you what it is. Hopefully you won't be able to spot it, but it was just one thing that we couldn't get the insurance for, and I think that plays a lot into this, that because there isn't a lot of computer generated image, because most of it's real, it really is going to feel real. So when we're kind of doing the explosions and driving off in the Land Rovers, and it's all for real.
So this email says, "Hello, can you please let Richard Armitage know that his Armitage army, hardcore fans out there, are really looking forward to watching Strike Back tomorrow night on Sky One, and are all totally behind him, supporting him in everything he does. I'd like to know which character he's enjoyed portraying the most." That's essentially, it goes on a bit, but that's essentially the question.
Gosh, I have to say John Porter's probably the character that I think, probably because it's the closest to me, but I actually started dreaming John Porter's dreams, which during filming, which was really quite disturbing. So he got under my skin quite a lot. But obviously John Thornton from North and South was quite a monumental.
And you played Monet, didn't you?
I did.
In the Impressionists.
In a big wig and a beard.
You preferred John Porter to Monet.
Yeah, I mean, I get to run around with guns rather than pointing at paintings.
Just been asking people as well on the text to tell us about celebrities that they've seen indulging their hobbies ahead